staff clothes. Is that Gary? Gary's friend. That's Mark.
Yeah, you like that, huh? It's like good. Hands are felt. So you can tell Grandpa you saw one that named after him. That was the first anti-tank. Any questions, Mike?
That's German.
Oh yeah.
Stop tanks. Like a bazooka.
That was the first one. That's where they got the idea for the RPG. That's the Panther Faust. Named it after Grandpa. One shot done. Oh, you have to get real close.
Yeah. Don't miss.
Yeah. And there's your favorite.
But it worked well. That's a
one cup. Oh, really? That's an individual.
I could have. As long as you're close. Oh, there you go.
Okay. You're welcome. Very welcome.
Another great aid to the American infantry squad in the Second World War was the Browning automatic rifle, the model of 1918-A2. It's called the model 1918 because it was adopted in 1917. They just didn't want to confuse it with the other Browning 1917. When this was adopted during the First World War, this was considered a secret weapon. Not a ray gun, not a plasma 40-watt rifle, just a machine rifle. It would hold 20 rounds in a box magazine, and all the soldier had to do was just hold the trigger, and the Browning would keep firing for him.
Is there an information person or someone you can ask?
Have a good day today.
Yeah, nothing's cooperating.
The beauty of the BAR was that it was extremely rugged, extremely reliable, and had incredible firepower. It could put out 10 rounds a second if you needed it to. The drawback to that firepower is that if you went too far too fast firing it, you could heat your barrel, and that could only be replaced by an armor. So that was a drawback. You couldn't overheat the gun. Generally, in a World War II squad of 12 men, one of them would be the BAR man, and he would carry this. If the squad came under fire, that BAR man would engage the squad, and while the enemy was hopefully hunkered down, our troops could advance while he was firing this weapon. Also designed by John Browning.
BAR would be considered the base of fire. You would have the squad, we divided up. That would be the base of fire with two other riflemen, and the other troops would go after it, engage the enemy.
Yeah. We have a blank firing demonstration with a Browning automatic rifle. Again, hopefully it works because blanks are very difficult to make operate.
Just hope they're born.
That's my mother. Hi, Ma. We don't want to scare her with the gunfire, but she's used to it by this stage. Gotcha?
No.
Well, again, the frustration of trying to do this with blank ammunition.
I don't remember doing that.
See, I could offer one, but then I'd have to clean it, and it's a pain in the neck, so. If I go through the weekend without cleaning my rifle, it's a good weekend.
All right, here we go.
All right, fire in the hole! And the military version will probably be 2 or 3 times faster than that, just by holding the trigger. And you can see the bipod twirling around on the end of the barrel. Generally, it's a great thing if you're lying prone and you're firing from a steady rest. When you're marching across the beautiful farm fields of France, it starts to get awfully heavy. I'm sure that the farm fields of France are still littered with American bipods that were discarded by GIs that were finding them too heavy to carry. The United States manufactured 6 million M1 Garand rifles in the Second World War. There were 16 million Americans in uniform. Not all of them got an M1 rifle. If you were perhaps a chef, a maintenance man, artillery, medical, any kind of a service job, you didn't need a full-size rifle. You needed something. There came the M1 carbine. Very light, very handy, very portable, very easy to carry. The troops loved them. Had a lot of firepower. Would hold 15 rounds in a box magazine. Early versions had a peculiarity. and that the safety button was right next to the magazine release. So if you were in a hurry and you wanted to turn your safety off, well, sometimes your bullets fell out.
and they'll take care
So later versions had a twist safety, so you could tell the difference between the two. The drawback to this weapon is that yes, it was very light and easy to carry, but a lot of guys carried it to the front line. Anecdotally, I had a friend whose brother was a sergeant in the European Theater of Operations in World War II. He said that he could tell when the Germans were running towards him. If they fell down, they were shot by the Garand or the Springfield. He says he could tell when the BAR hit them because they fly backwards. He said he knew when the carbine shot them, they'd wince. Don't bring a second-rate rifle to a first-rate fight, I guess is the lesson. It's a great rifle. It's one of America's favorites and classics. It was not a main battle rifle, and some people tried to use it that way.
It was originally designed to replace 45 caliber pistols. Instead of issuing pistols, that also gave you a longer range. Now it's the same caliber, 30 caliber. I mean, the bullet diameter is the same, but here's a 30 caliber carbine cartridge, not that big. Here's a 30-06 or an M1 Garand cartridge. A lot more powder, a lot more power. Go ahead.
We're going to blank fire the M1 carbine now. Fire in the hole!
Whoa.
It held 15 rounds, and like Dan said, that it really fired a pistol cartridge, which didn't have the range or the knockdown power of a rifle round.
It's one of America's favorites, the Thompson submachine gun. Who doesn't like a Tommy gun? The U.S. military actually adopted the same gun that you see in the gangster movies, the model of 1921, very similar to the military version. To build a 12-pound Thompson submachine gun, you start with about 25 pounds of steel, and then you machine away all your parts. You've got switches, levers, magazine catches, all sorts of parts. Probably took a week to build one and a lot of men. So, America, being as great as she is, we simplified it. We came out with the M1A1 Thompson submachine gun for the Second World War. A lot simpler, a lot easier to manufacture, still cost $145, still took a week. Then we copied England and Germany's advance into weapons technology. We called upon the General Motors division. We used their hubcap making machine. And we'd stamp out a left half of a gun, and they'd stamp out a right half. And then they'd weld them together, and for $8.50 you had an M3A1 grease gun, submachine gun. Fired the same ammunition as the Thompson, and in fact these were reliable, although the GIs hated them. Nothing was wooden on them. All the American classics have wood. This was a new concept at the time in the 1940s. These grease guns soldiered on well into the 1990s. They were very handy and compact. The space that it takes up in storage is minimal. You can put it inside a tank. You can have a stack of them. Took up almost no room. If you had to climb out of your tank and engage the enemy, you had a perfectly good gun to do so. Heavier support weapons, we'll start with what was also a World War I weapon, the Browning heavy machine gun. Upon the government trials in 1917 to see if the government should buy this gun, the inventor kept this gun running for 45 minutes. It didn't stop, it didn't jam, it didn't break. The hardest part of that 45-minute period was getting guys to load ammunition into the fabric belts. The generals were impressed, but they asked the inventor, what kind of tools does it take to work on this gun? And he said, actually, it doesn't take any. He took the cartridge off the ground, and we'll just give this a little twist. Put that in there, if I get it lined up correctly. I'll have to go right into the glasses. And now we can take the whole gun apart. No tools needed. The government ordered them, they were very impressed, it worked very well. Being a water-cooled gun, it did not need a quick change barrel feature. As World War II advanced, we started building the same basic mechanism into the 1919 A4 general purpose light machine gun. The only drawback to this gun, and it still retained the reliability and the firepower, but it never had a quick change barrel feature built into it. Because its roots came from a heavy water-cooled gun, there was no way to simply change this barrel. So the whole mechanism had to be removed out of the back of the gun. It could be done in approximately a minute. The German guns of the same period could be done in approximately 20 seconds, perhaps less. It was a rugged, reliable gun, fired the same ammunition as the Springfield and the Grand and the BAR. It could fire from linked ammunition or cloth belts, both work just as well. It was a very rugged gun, and the accuracy on these platforms is actually very good because the tripod has aiming mechanisms built into it. So you can adjust elevation and traverse. Once the gun is set up and in place, it's a very effective tool. They also went one step further with the 1919A6 light machine gun. You do things the American way. You take a 39-pound gun, you make it 41 pounds, and you call it a light machine gun. So they added 3 pounds. It worked well. It's the same basic idea to make a more portable gun. As we move along, we have the bazooka. 2.36-inch rocket launcher bazooka. The problem we really had in the Second World War was stopping German armor. It was a lot tougher than we'd ever expected. This is one of the tools we came up with to combat that. This is a typical bazooka round from the Second World War. If the bazooka wasn't good enough, late in the war, they came up with the 57mm recoilless rifle. Worked on the same machine gun tripod as that. It was man-portable, it was heavy to carry. The unique feature was that the case was perforated, so that when it fired, all the thrust would drive the projectile forward, and a flame would come out the back approximately 65 feet. Don't stand behind it. The effective range of this device could be 4,400 yards. Think about your car in the parking lot, we're not even halfway there. If you could see it, you could hit it. The 57mm was barely adequate and was actually updated in the Korean War, and by Vietnam it had evolved into a 106mm weapon, which is very effective to this day. Jim, you have anything? Some German stuff?
All right, moving on a little bit. Thank you, Dan, very much for that. We're going to talk a little bit about the weapons of our opposition, in particular the German Army. The German Army had always been a forerunner in weapons development and the quality of their weapons, and that retained itself pretty much through the Second World War. They were geniuses in cost-saving methods as the war got a little tougher on them. The first weapon we're going to talk about is going to be the German Luger. The German Luger is known as the model P08 from 1908. This is the same type of gun that was used in the First World War against somebody's great-grandfather. It fired a 9mm round, parabellum. It was a small, light, and very fast round. Did not have anywhere near the knockdown power of a .45 pistol, but it had a pretty decent magazine capacity and it was very accurate. So these weapons were highly prized as souvenirs. Everyone wanted to bring a Luger home, but you didn't want to get caught by the Germans having one on you, because they'd probably shoot you with it, figuring that you killed the guy that you got it from. So these weapons were used in World War I and throughout World War II. But like the Thompson, it was complicated and required a tremendous amount of machine work in order to make one. Again, their quality was very high and their finishing was high. Folks, you've got to move around this way.
Fire in the hole!
A little bit. Why we tell you to move.
Blank ammunition.
We do this demonstration more than once today, so we will be doing it several times. You got here late.
Most of these guns will actually operate 100% on real ammunition. With blanks, we try to get 50% out of them. It's just very difficult.
Right. The next pistol that the Germans went to was the P38. Tom, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Germans wanted a weapon that was a little more reliable, not quite as much machining. So it was a little quicker to make, and it It's a little more tolerant to dirt, whereas the POA didn't take too kindly to any dirt. It's a single and double action gun, which means charging it with the slide, pulls the hammer back, pull the trigger. If you already have a round in the trigger, in the chamber, and lower the hammer, still pull the trigger.
In comparison, the American service pistol, the First and Second World Wars, was a 1911A1, and to put a cartridge in there, you'd have to do that, and then it would be ready. Now you have a cocked pistol that's ready to fire. The Germans overcame that by making a trigger mechanism. You would put the hammer down safely, and then you could just pull the trigger to make the gun ready. So there's a big difference in how quickly you can bring that
Also, if
P38.
the hammer is back, if you drop the safety, you safely drop the hammer.
Which is a major feature on most handguns that are available now.
Most handguns today, such as Glock and so on, operate in the same fashion as the German P38.
Move back.
Yeah, we give them a little.
Yeah.
Okay, the next weapon that the German had was the Mauser K98 rifle. The 98K, K stand for Kurtz, was just a shortened version of the same rifle that they used in the First World War. It was the same action, it was a proven design, it was strong. Majority of the hunting rifles made today are still made on a Mauser's type action because of its reliability and strength. It was a high quality weapon that was shortened an inch length about 1935. The World War I one was significantly longer, so this was a little more maneuverable and it cut down on maybe a pound or so of weight on the weapon. It fired an 8mm Mauser 7.92 round, all right, which was similar to our 30-06 round. These particular rifles, again, were very accurate, just like our 03 Springfield. And again, a lot of these guys at the end of the war, vets sent tons of these homes to be turned into deer rifles or to hang on their wall as their trophy. They were clip fed with 5 rounds. They were loaded in through the top on a stripper clip. Fire in the hole. Well, that's what they do. Blanks are that way. As the war progressed, when Germany was in the full war mode, the blockades and their raw materials were harder to get into the country to manufacture weapons. So they had unique ideas of cost-saving methods. Later on in the war, they started to simplify things. The machining time to make the barrel bands was cut down into stampings. The Germans were the first ones to come out with stamping pieces for their weapons. So basically the bands were cruder, there were weld marks on them. The machining time was reduced. Basically it was still the same weapon, it fired just as well, but it was a cheaper made gun because of the economy that was going on at the time. The last version of it was known as a Kriegs model. These came out in the late of 44 and 45. Some of them had this takedown disc for the bolt. It was just a hole drilled in the butt plate. If you notice, the bayonet lug is missing. That was another machining process. There wasn't a lot of bayonet fighting in World War II, so they just removed it altogether. Again, still the same weapon all the way around. The Germans, like the Americans, also had grenade launchers attached to their rifles. This is a cup discharge launcher, and this is an anti-personnel grenade that fit down here. Was a rifle tube. It used a blank round to throw this thing 150 to 175 yards. It had a calibrated sight with a bubble level so you could be accurate with it. All right, and they also had an anti-tank round that was good against half-tracks and other vehicles of that sort. The next rifle was the G43. They saw that the Americans had such luck with the M1 Garand and how much firepower they could put out. The Germans also encountered the Russian Tokarev rifle, SVT-40, which was a favorite on the Eastern Front. They came up with their own version of it. What was nice about this is that it had a 10-round detachable box magazine. So you could put in another magazine if you needed to, or you could load it through the top through stripper clips. Many of these came with telescopic sights, so they were issued as sniper rifles if they met the strict testing at the end of the assembly line. They earmarked a lot of these guns for marksmen. And Tom, would you like to demo this?
Sure. You went through the whole thing on it? Yeah. Okay.
That would fire 10 rounds, so it was kind of try to keep up with the M1 Garand. One of the most highly recognized weapons for a German soldier in World War II was the MP40, also known as the Schmeiser. All submachine guns fired pistol cartridges, as Dan might have mentioned. This fired the same round as the Luger pistol. The logistics of having all different kinds of bullets would plague a number of armies like the Japanese and the Italian army, because they changed right before the war started. So half their weapons had one caliber and the other half had a different caliber. So again, it fired a pistol cartridge which didn't have a long range, but it put out a decent volume of fire of approximately 500 or so rounds, and these would wreak havoc on a lot of GIs.
To do a blank firing, it's actually a model gun that fires at a full automatic rate. Blanks will be the death of us yet, folks. See, last year it rained out, no one came, and the guns worked perfect.
Sure.
How do you beat that?
The last main weapon that the Germans came out with was the MP44, known as the machine pistol. Later on, it's designated was turned as the STG-34, which was called the Sturmgewehr, which is the grandfather of the assault rifle. Even though the Russians say no, the AK-47 was basically built off this design. If you notice, it's all metal stampings. It's not a lot of fine machine work here, but the technology was still there. They reduced the rate of fire down on these a little bit for a little more control. But the interesting part of it, because an assault rifle shoots a rifle cartridge. The Germans were kind of smart. In order to reduce the tremendous recoil that a full 8mm round would produce on a bolt-action rifle, they made a shortened version of that, called the Kurz round. So it was still an 8mm, but it was significantly shorter. It carried a 30-round box magazine. It also could attach the grenade launcher, and then later on they actually put a device known as a Krummlauf, which was a bent barrel so they could shoot out of armored vehicles or around corners. I guess you had to find a lot of corners to fight around, otherwise it really wasn't worth very much. But in an armored vehicle, instead of having that, it would this way and the barrel would be pointed that way. So this weapon was quite the weapon at the time, and if they had come out with these weapons a lot earlier in the war, it certainly would have been a lot more trouble for us. Don't touch them, they're hot. Also in their defense, because of the problems, the German armor was pretty formidable, and it was hard for us to knock them out with standard handheld anti-tank weapons. Our bazookas were okay if you could fire it into an older version of a German tank, and also if you could hit maybe a Panther, knock out a tread, or hit it from the rear where it was more lightly armored. But anything off the front would bounce off like ping pong balls. So the Germans were going up against some heavier Russian tanks, and also because of the fact that they were always on the defensive, they decided to produce a one-shot handheld bazooka-type weapon that could be basically instructed to the biggest dummy in the army. All right, they based everything on the stupid factor, just for the fact that they could teach old men in their 70s and kids as young as 12 how to knock out a Russian tank. It was cheap to produce and was one shot. The first one that came out was the Model 30, which was known as the Klein for small. It was an explosive head that had the same type of hollow effect charge as a regular tank round. And you could knock out a Sherman tank or a soft skin vehicle with this. Basically, you'd pull the pin, the sight would come up, you'd hold it this way, you'd push the button, the exhaust would come out the back like a bazooka, and it would bloop in. You could actually see the round lob in. This was okay, but it wasn't really doing the job. So they came up with a bigger version, which was the 60 millimeter one. 60 meter one was a heavier charge, basically the same type of system. Pull the pin, push down on this. Again, this thing would bloop in. This could knock out any armored vehicle that was fighting the German army in those days. And they did tremendous damage against the Russians and against our troops as we were fighting our way into Germany.
The same technology is also used today in the RPGs that we see our troops fighting with in Iraq and Afghanistan. German technology from the 1940s, still fighting today.
Bob, would you like to talk about the MG34?
Good morning. This is your general purpose light weapon, heavy weapon. Right now it's set up as a heavy defensive machine gun. It's an MG34, belt fed. This is a dummy belt. Don't worry about the pointy parts. It's used for basically this was your overall infantry machine gun. When you have these weapons going up against you, like the British Bren gun had a 35 round clip, this had 250 at the same time. This shoots between 850 and 1,000 RPM. It's adjustable by the rate by the front.
1,000 rounds per minute.
This belt is about 4 seconds. Fires up to 22 rounds per second, which means in 1 second you have 22 bullets going 1,000 yards into something.
The drawback to that rate of fire was that it took twice as much ammunition, twice as many people to carry it. But it also kept us twice as much in fear. The sound that that gun makes in full automatic is incredible.
Just one beat, but the
U.S. Army would make the U.S. Army would make training films just to train our soldiers to not be afraid of the sound of it.
This was followed up by a 42, which you'll hear run later. That's running today at about 1,000. You can tell the difference between pop, 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 and a zip. This came with a quick change barrel. Basically, all you had to do was every can of ammo, which is 250 rounds. That's the box. You can see every German carrying one in the back, two in the arms. They also look like they're carrying a pole cue. Those are the extra barrels. On these here, they had a quick change barrel. This one here, because it fires from an open bolt, it stays cool. Change the barrel, basically. The German weapon. And you had to do is this. Flip it up. Flip it up. Guy in the back pulls back on the thing. Barrel's ready. It comes out. Throw a new barrel in. Close it up. You're ready to go again.
Compare that to the American system where half the gun had to be taken apart and removed out of the rear.
It's anywhere from 5 to 12 seconds. A 4-man combat team can change a barrel. Basically how to do it. Squeeze grip. This is the live gun.
And those barrels were cherry red, so you couldn't grab it with your hands. They had an asbestos mitt that was issued with every gun team, so that guy could pull out that barrel without roasting his hand.
And the spare barrels came in a long metal tube, like a 2-inch piece of steel pipe. They'd open it up and the barrel come back and put it in. They put it aside and it's cool. They had 3 extra barrels with it. Back in. Put the belt back in. Normally they would not have to change the belt. They would leave the belt open because the bolt would always be back, so they could just flip it open. This is a closed bolt system. Basically, I have the sights, so I'll have them tomorrow, put them on here. This weapon is good up to about 1,800 yards, which is about 1.5 miles. And a 2-piece trigger, upper and a lower trigger, you can adjust with the switch. On the upper trigger, it fired 1 shot at a time. So when you were out there firing this weapon, and you saw a bunch of Russians out there, you fire 1 shot at a time. After a few annoying shots, they'd say, 15 would say, let's go kill the German sniper. When they got halfway here, the guy would put the finger down to the lower part of the trigger, and that would solve that problem. and they have a guy, they move the can over here. When you see movies, the guys are going like this with the belt. That's exactly the faster we're going through. Every 250 rounds, can went empty, they change the barrel, the next can went in. Carry an extra bolt in this container here. They over-engineered everything. You have your ranging scale up here, this goes up and down. It also goes right and left. With the flip of a lever up here, it goes automatically, so while you're holding on to the trigger, it goes back and forth, going affiliate fire, which means you're dropping the bullets over your men advancing. This was high technology, but unfortunately, it was all hand machined, hand built. Match numbers are good. Towards the end of the war, they weren't match number guns. They were put together. They have a lot of problems. It was replaced by the MG42. You'll see later. First, we have to use it over there as the next demonstration.
Thank you, Bob.
All right, thank you, Bob. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the grenade demonstration, rifle grenade demonstration. All right. And as far as our schedule is concerned, if you guys stay close by, we're going to do a squad demonstration against a German machine gun, and then the armor's going to go out and run around. So if you guys kind of hang close. After we're all done with all of this, there is an obstacle course for the kids. So that's starting over on that side of the field over there, so don't go there yet. Hang here for a few more minutes, and then that'll be the deserted field.
I'm going to give you a demonstration of rifle grenades. The rifle grenade, we took a standard M1 rifle and attached a launcher to it. The rifle grenade was designed to bridge the gap between mortars and artillery. Now I took this off, go back on. Now, we're going to use a standard blank cartridge and a dummy grenade. There was a special grenade launching cartridge. So since it was a special cartridge, it was a lot more powerful. So you didn't fire it from the shoulder because it would break your shoulder. Now, the first grenade we're going to use is an anti-tank grenade. Now, this just slides on because this is a dummy replica. If you'll notice, if you can see them, there's little lines on here. Depending on where you placed it, they would have springs, and that would be adjust for your range. Now, I'm going to need a volunteer. You, over here. Stand right over here at the corner. I'm going to need you to retrieve this. You're going to bring it back. You can't keep it. Okay?
Fire in the hole!
What would be placed in the ground? Go! Okay, fire in the hole. And fire! You can go get that for me, please.
Is that about as far as a real one would go?
Huh?
That about as far?
A real one could go farther. Now, I used a standard blank card.
And exactly where you wanted it to go.
I've seen them put them through windows.
Yes.
Well, no, it looked like they were doing it.
Another option was if you didn't have an anti-tank grenade, a lot of times to fire through a window, they had a special thing, a special adapter, which flew off the gun also, and a regular hand grenade. You'd pull the pin on the hand grenade, you would actually have the grenade here.
Get him! Get him! There's those,
Danny, get the grenade from that table. All right. The difference, when this was, the whole thing would fly off. And there was a clip on here, the grenade would, you pull the pin, there was a safety catch so the grenade handle didn't open and explode off the end of the rifle. And you would launch, okay, I got some of this. The white things are on there just so we could find it.
This adapter allowed the use of a regular infantry hand grenade in case you ran out of rifle grenades. You just popped a regular pineapple grenade on there and you're back in business.
All right, I'm going to need 2 volunteers. How about you 2 for this one? All right?
No.
Grenade toss will be a 12.
Fire in the hole! Fire in the hole! Okay, like we said, blanks are just so much fun. How was that?
You put on the on button.
Danny, give me the on button. There's a clip right here for us. Just like we were saying, blanks aren't finicky.
I didn't see it. I took a quick look, but I don't want
Puzzle loader, you know?
Just come in and finish.
All right, did it separate? Wait till it lands. Oh, there it goes. It would separate on contact and
No, I
explode.
can't throw it that far. Going twice that
All
far.
right, pick two kids. How many we got out there? Yeah.
That's actually 4-year-old kid. Run to get the grenade.
Look at the German grenades.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying is if they were, you could only do 2.
No, those you unscrewed the bottom of the string thread and pulled the string.
Was this a standard issue item? Oh no, that was just given.
That was a mortar shell.
No, approximately 1 in 12. Is it required? Yeah, you'd have a rifle grenadier. Yeah. So it would take special training, practice, and you couldn't do it to everybody. We just didn't have enough time to train the troops and get them out there. Usually 1 man for 12. In early World War II, the rifle grenadier would be given to the Springfield rifle because the ammunition could be done interchangeably. With the M1 rifle, special ammunition would actually blow the gun up if you did not fire a grenade, or if you put live ammunition in with the grenade on top. It could be disastrous.
Now, they also made a grenade launcher for the M1 carbine. Now, after I launch the grenade, if I want to shoot this with regular ammunition, I must remove this because it will blow up. The M1 carbine had a different type of launcher which allowed you to leave it on the gun and just fire regular rounds, which is actually a lot better principle because that way you don't have to worry about, you don't have to stop to take it off because somebody's shooting at you a lot of times. You know, you're firing grenades at them, they're going to be upset, so they're going to shoot back.
Anyone have any questions?
We don't know the answers, we'll make stuff up.
We explained everything that well, there are no questions. Thank you for coming today.
Cigar. Here's the most effective weapon in the theater of war. The rifle squad. Without the rifle squad, these weapons are useless. Okay? During World War II, whether you were in the infantry or the paratroopers, the rifle squad comprised of 12 men. In that was the able element. The able element comprised of 2 scouts, squad leader. The able element was responsible for the security of the squad. The squads would go out, seek out, give signals, and deploy. Able back in. The Baker element was the base of fire, featuring the BAR and 2A gunners. They would provide cover for the squad. Baker back in. The Charlie element. Come on in, Charlie. No. Hold. There you go. Welcome, Jim. All right, the Charlie element. That was the maneuver element. Okay? Headed up by an assistant squad leader. Baker would provide the cover. Charlie would provide the maneuver and take out the objective. Charlie, fall back in. Okay? Give us 2 minutes to set up. We'll demonstrate in the field. Easy. Jimmy, take us up to the fire truck. Let's go. Keep it out.
Moving on the fence. By the clearing, see the guy? He's got some kind of machine gun. I don't think it's 42. It's too low a rate of fire. They're gonna take him out.
Oh, that's what's going on. Oh, they're gonna go take it.
Oh, there's some shells on the wall. I'm gonna go look at one of them.
Keep them capture these guys are just trying to
Let's go, take it in, take it in!
They're going around the back.
He's at a never saw Thompson today.
Or they're trying to go around and capture and take them out. The Germans pulled back. Oh, they must have saw some Germans. Remember, no, it's obviously
Private shot.
but
I found another one. Did you?
good.
This is the rifle.
Yes,
Except there was a bar over there. I'm looking for bars. So. Can we move to a different spot? They're converging over there. There's a stretcher. I'm going to put them on weight. The stretcher's rolled up. Can we go move over there?
Yay! Nobody appreciates that. Where? All right, thanks, guys. Hurry! Yeah, we're going to same thing with us up here.
Let's see. When I was good, 792 by.
So that's how the Russians did it.
Yep.
We need to mine stuff that would start the obstacle course like now.
I noticed this. The German grenades were shellless. They had no casing. That thing just went right out the ground.
Yeah, it's a little different.
The
It's
Russians GP grenades don't have shells either. They stole it.
that is.
Oh yes, I love that gun.
That's actually an Adama. They call it a Schmeisser. Machine pistol. Well, he didn't want to approve a lot of things. They have to push into it. That's the P-38. That's the Forerunner. Beretta. Better.
Hey, Mom. Airplane. Is it air? Control air or from space?
Well, they only had 3 bullets in the entire war, and the 4th. That is the weapon that took over Europe.
They can come by here too, so.
Yep.
Case of
Yep.
invasion.
Yep. They were at bases. They were at sea. They were everywhere. The Marines had anti-aircraft batteries that they called them defense battalions. The 1st Marine Defense Battalion was on Wake Island.
And parachute regiments of World War II was comprised of 12 men carrying various weapons. Okay, there was 3 elements to the rifle platoon. The first element is Able Company. Able Company is the able element of the squad is the security of the squad. It comprises of 2 scouts, 1 squad leader. Okay, our job was to go out, just what it implies, go out and probe, look for enemy positions. Okay, once we would see the enemy positions, it would be the squad leader's job to maneuver the rest of the squad. The second element is the Vega element. The Vega element is comprised of 3 more squad members, being the BAR man and 2 A gunners. The BAR man is carrying the 1918, as you saw, shooting the same caliber round as the M1 Durans. Okay, their job is to provide what we call the base of fire. Once we engage an enemy position, their job is to put firepower on that position and allow the last element of the squad, which is Charlie element. Charlie forward. Charlie element comprised of the last 6 members of a squad. Okay, within that was 6 riflemen, including the assistant squad leader. Okay, once the squad leader gave orders as to how to maneuver the Charlie element, which is a maneuver element. Okay, if we're engaged, Abel and Baker, now it's Charlie's job to maneuver and go attack the position while we're giving the base of fire. The assistant squad leader will be in charge of that element. In the case of the squad leader going down, he would then assume command of the squad. With that being said, easy, Jimmy, move him out. Let's regroup. Good, gentlemen, double time. Let's go, hustle. Single file back there. Get it out.
That guy's in charge. This is the guys who laid them. They were scouting. They're out in front. They're scouting their position right here. The guys are scouting.
Get closer.
That's the vehicle. Let's look around. Picture of Uncle Joe on the table. That's the hardest journey. Misunderstood. Can you get in the right?
How are you today?
Russian World War II.
You know, I was in Berlin.
A lot of them
Okay, the half track's going first, because that would be correct. It goes out to the shot, radio back, and then I come up and kill it.
Roster has 6.9.
Sure.